Okay, awesome. So thank you all for joining us and for being here today. We're excited to have you and to just be able to have conversations about STEM careers and what pathways within STEM look like, some pitfalls and power moves that people can take advantage of, and just learning from the expertise of our esteemed panelists. So this career panel is hosted and presented by UIU Bay Area Mentorship Committee. So if you don't know, I'm trying to get away from. Okay, so if you don't know, UIU Bay Area Umoibo Unite, we are a group that's created basically to serve the Igbo community. We do things in collaborations with other communities, Nigerian, African, otherwise. But within ourselves this year, we're doing a summer mentorship program, which is pretty much like our pilot and our founders cohort. So we're really excited to be doing this. And this is part of the programming that we created for the summer, which will be over the 3 months from June to September. So if there's anybody who is interested in something like that, or you know someone who would be, oh, and just to clarify, this year it's between the ages of 16 to 20. Next, in coming years, that might change, but that's what it is for now. And so if you guys know anyone who would be interested in that sort of thing, please feel free to share us as a resource for them. That's why we do what we do, to help the next generation move forward and in confidence and in knowledge and expertise and all of those good stuff. So let's kick off. Today we're going to be talking STEM Careers Reimagined, and the topic is basically breaking into STEM career growth impact across tech, medicine, and research. So okay, to go back, skip the page. Okay, great. So let me run this through. So why we're here. So, and why this conversation matters. So what we're doing here is really showcasing real career journeys across tech, medicine, and research, as I already mentioned, and also highlighting pivotal decisions, transitions, and challenges that people face. And so this is really your opportunity to ask questions. As the panelists speak, maybe just jot things down, or as I mentioned, put it in the chat. But this is the opportunity to really think through some of the decisions and transitions and challenges that you might be experiencing or that might come up, or some things that you might have heard of. And then also to empower youth and emerging professionals to navigate their own path, of course. So meet your panelists. It's going to be Joy, Anyanwu, Dr. Joy Anyanwu, Ebrima Jobe. I hope I said that right. And then Dr. Uju Okoye-Okafor. So these are going to be our wonderful panelists. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you all for contributing and giving your time towards having this conversation. So, and your delightful moderator, me, Ijeoma. So moving forward. So what to expect tonight, where we're going to be doing quick intros, personal journeys, honest discussions on career pivots and challenges and wins, as I already mentioned. And then I'll have QA with audience, which will be at the end of the discussion. And then we'll tell you about ways that you can stay connected with us. So let me actually pause this, because we're going to now go into our conversation. And before we start, I do want to take a moment to introduce our panelists fully. So Ebrima is a tech founder and a software engineer, and he is a Gambian American software engineer and DJ, creative entrepreneur, and the founder of TBA, a culture-first ticketing platform. He builds tools that merge technology, storytelling, and community empowerment. And Dr. Uju Okoye-Okafor is a translational scientist, and Dr. Uju brings over a decade of leadership in scientific research by specimen operations. She's committed to inclusive innovation, mentorship, and building thriving environments for people and ideas in STEM. And then we have, last but not least, the wonderful Dr. Joy Anyanwu. And she is a family medicine physician. And Dr. Joy is a dedicated clinician with a public health lens, serving diverse communities through family medicine. And she's passionate about mentoring as well and future healthcare professionals and demystifying career paths in medicine. So now that you all know a little bit about our panelists, who they are, I want to jump into a quick icebreaker. And that question is going to be, what would you, knowing what, okay, so that question is, what would you have in terms of your ideas or your passions or your goals at the age of 16? If you envisioned that you were going to be someone, who was that person, and how far do you think you are from who that person is right now, or how close are you? So just going to throw the icebreaker out there for our panelists. So please feel free. Actually, let me pick someone to make everybody's lives easier. I'm going to go with Dr. Uju. Can you please answer the question for us?
Hi, everybody. Welcome and thank you for having me. This is cool.
Oh,
Straight. I can you hear me?
you're muted, so we can't really hear you.
I can hear her.
Or is that me? Could we hear you?
Yeah, I can hear her.
Okay, cool.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, great.
Hi, everybody. Again, hi guys. Okay, I'll try to speak up more clearly, but thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. I would say when I was 16, I envisioned becoming a MD, like a physician. Um, I was that kid that I played when people played house, I played doctor. So I was like, I'm definitely gonna become a doctor. That's all I thought about. And once I moved to the US, that was what I focused on. Um, However, I didn't end up following the traditional MD path anymore. And I ended up pursuing a PhD and becoming a research scientist. In the time that I have, I guess, exercised my research science background and experience and all the things I've had to do, I ended up having the opportunity to realize that research has given me the opportunity to support patient outcomes. Um, Now that I'm a translational researcher, I don't think I'm too far away from my original vision. I ended up finding a path that actually connects better with my personality and my natural tendencies and interests. Um, and and now I get to like bridge the gap between my care and interest in helping people and actually um figuring out how we can do things, change systems, improve care through actual activities in the lab, that actually helps improve patient outcomes in real time. And so I see like I find myself like, okay, I'm actually happy because I still feel like I'm making a meaningful impact in the healthcare system. So while I didn't end up on the traditional path of becoming an MD, going into research ended up actually um being more aligned with who I am, while I still get to make an impact in research and translational care specifically to improve patient outcomes. So I think it's kind of cool. I wouldn't have thought about that at 16, but I love how everything aligned for me in the end. But yeah.
I think that's awesome because, as you said, even though your goal is, or you're envisioning MD, you're still finding those alignments and those pathways that still bring you comment, and that's wonderful. So thank you for sharing. So I'll give it away to Joy. Dr. Joy, could you answer the question for us and tell us what your dream career was at 16 and how far or close you are to it now?
I don't know that I had a dream career, so I think that's always an interesting question. But I was a senior in high school at 16, so I knew I wanted to go into medicine. So I guess I'm doing that now. Um, Yeah, and I would say it's pretty similar. So in high school, I don't think I knew kind of like what the day-to-day job would be like, mostly because like I didn't grow up in the US and I came to the US for college. And growing up in Nigeria, we don't really go to doctors actually ever. I think we got like vaccines you know, at like the public hospital, and then that was pretty much the exposure I had. So I'd say didn't really have a specific idea. I think I was just like a good student and I like learning, and it seemed like a kind of interesting thing. And then in college was where I actually like worked in the hospital, worked in the clinic, got a better idea of like, okay, this is what things will look like. And then, yeah, just went ahead.
And just curious, really quickly, when you went and did that little time at the hospital, were there other things that you were exploring, or was it just sort of like
Medicine.
for at the time?
Yeah, for me, not really. So my undergrad is in like biochemistry. So I have a lot of friends who are PhDs in biochemistry and do bench work. And I knew I would not become that. Like it was interesting and it was good. Um, but I knew I was not going to be a bench scientist. So yeah, I think I thought about, I guess I did think about like public health and epidemiology. So which is what my master's is in. Um, so I would say if I wasn't doing this, so I used to say if I wasn't doing this, I would be an epidemiologist. But now, years later, if I was going to do something else in healthcare, personally, it would probably be like pharmacy. Mostly, it's kind of related and kind of makes sense. So that's probably what I would do if I was going to do something else in medicine. And then I have other ideas of what I would do if I wasn't doing medicine.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you for your response. And let's really quickly go to Ebrima. Ebrima, what's your dream career at 16? And how far are you close? Oh, is it just me this time, or okay, I can hear you now.
No.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Yeah, when I was 16, I was not thinking about my career in this way. Like I was like a lot of black boys around me. We wanted to go to the NBA. And I thought I thought I was gonna go to the league. Like I was like really good at basketball. I was kind of short. Then I hit a growth spurt later. But yeah, that's the only thing I was really focused on. I knew I was good at like I know I was smart. I knew I was good with like computers and like fixing things, and I was a stack person, like just knows how to just figure stuff out. Like when the remote's not working or like something at the house ain't working, my parents just tell me to go fix it because I just know how to do it. So um I got my reality check when one of my I think my health teacher was kind of just breaking down the odds of what it really takes to make it to the NBA. Like really broke down the numbers, and it's like it kind of just killed like my whole vision of like me being in the league and playing on the Raptors was my favorite team at the time. And I'm just like, all right, well, basketball's not going to work anymore. What am I going to do? I always know I was good with computers, like I said. So I just decided to lean in on that. My high school at the time had a lot of like computer technology classes that I just took just because I was just curious about it. But I like as I got older and closer to graduation, I realized like, okay, like there's a path for me here. And I don't know what the path is, but I want to work somewhere in tech. I know how to code. I know how to like do a lot of things. And yeah, that was a decision I'm glad that I made to kind of actually double down into this thing that I'm naturally gifted in because I've had a lot of exposure in tech. My dad's was a desktop engineer, so he would always come home and like open up computers and install RAM and hard drives and stuff. I just always wanted to be like try to do it. So yeah, my dream career at 16 was nowhere close to where I'm at right now, but yeah, the delusion was real, and I'm glad I got to kind of get honest with myself, and yeah, I'm happy where I'm at now.
But I mean, it's okay to be delusional at that age because you're dreaming big and who knows, those things can happen. But okay, so that's a great introduction. And since we're now talking about pathways, let's stick with you, Ebrima. So knowing that you've gone from
Ebrima, if I'm sorry.
Ebrima, okay. So knowing that you've gone from like software engineering to or traditional software engineering to being a founder, I'm really interested to know like what that pathway really was like. So was it just like software engineering for you, or how did you navigate exploring that world of engineering, and how did that shape how you decided to structure your career from that point on?
Yeah. So when I graduated from college, I had a job opportunity at a consulting company in LA, which I was extremely excited to do. I never been to LA. I was either working in DC where I was from or moving to LA. So I was like, it felt like a no-brainer. Um, and there I was doing a bunch of different projects and I was pretty much getting thrown into stuff. And my original kind of like area that I worked in was in DevOps, which is like developer operations. So basically handling like cloud infrastructure, servers, deployments. Whenever engineers are pushing out new code, I'm the one helping deploy the code so that users are able to see the new changes, new features, whatever we happen to roll out. And it was cool at first. I was just kind of automating things and watching things run, but like after a while, I just kind of like I wasn't really fulfilled, really. I'm someone I like to build stuff. Like I like to just have an idea and just like put it together. And doing deployments, I didn't feel like that was the place for me. I almost felt like I was like a technical janitor where I'm just like pushing out code and making sure everything's clean and everything. And I'm like, I want to learn how to build stuff. One of my colleagues at the time did a software engineering boot camp to like build full stack applications where you like build the front end and you build a back end with the servers and your database and they all kind of work together. And I didn't really know how to build an app, but I knew how to like code a little bit. And I'm like, this might be a sign for me to also try this boot camp experience so I could actually get a software engineer job, which is what I've always not what I've always wanted to be, what I've learned that's the place that makes sense for me, for someone that wants to build stuff. Like you have to learn how to build software. So that is how I kind of transitioned over to software engineering, ended up working a few jobs, ended up starting my own projects, which was bound to happen. The kind of person I am, I just like to just try stuff, even if it's not the best idea. I just want to figure it out. I'm the kind of person that likes to touch the stove just to know if it's hot or not. So yeah, that's kind of been my experience from working, professionally at a company and also like starting my own project that have turned into companies as well. So interesting ride. But yeah, it just kind of all came from my desire to just like create stuff. And that felt like the place to kind of start, especially in tech.
Okay, awesome. And thank you for sharing. And while you were talking, I was thinking about how a lot of times engineers have this very creative side of them because, like you said, you love to build things and put things together. And it's easy to see how that translates into different creative art forms um, and spaces. And so I'm really interested to know like how your journey has shaped or helped you through that path to where you are now. So, and I also want to know a little bit more about TBA and what inspired, you to build that platform as well.
So your first question is how all of my different wait, sorry. Can you remember the first question again? Sorry, I was.
Well, as an engineer and as a creative, what I'm really wondering is how that has evolved into the other things that you do. Because you've mentioned that you're a DJ, you've mentioned that, you and I think your bio says something like you're at the intersection of like creativity, tech, and some other things. And so I'm just wondering like how you've managed to expand your skill set or your impact in other areas beyond just software engineering and that sort of tech side, and how you've merged tech with those other things, creative and otherwise.
For sure. That's a great question. So, I think for me, so I went to Hampton University. I studied computer science, so I have like this kind of way of thinking through things, like the scientific method. Like I just have to like prove things make sense, and a lot of times it just comes from me being curious and just being a bit audacious, right? Me being a DJ happened at college. I was also, heavily in the computer science department, like speaking to my dean and like getting mentorship from my professors, getting internships, like learning how systems work. But I'm also a DJ, so I was on campus every weekend DJing, like learning how that system work of like events, live experiences, like putting together an event, building a promotional team, like selling tickets. Like I just got a lot of exposure to a lot of different things. So just me being immersed in that world and learning about all the different kind of music from all around the world, from all my friends that went to school with and stuff. I just got immersed in a lot of things, and I'm naturally someone who likes to just like I said, I like to just, if I have an idea for something, I'm the kind of person like if I say like, hey, I'm gonna learn how to rock climb. Some people would say stuff and you're like, okay, they're just talking. Like I'm the person that's actually gonna do it. And I'm like, oh shit, you actually did it? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I said I was gonna do it, right? So I think I didn't know that that wasn't always normal. People talk about ideas all the time, but when I talk about certain ideas and I say I'm going to do it, I literally just try to do it. And the way I do it is just like I try to think about the end result that I want. So I can also talk about this party that I started in DC called Chicken and Mumbo Sauce, which is like mumbo sauce is like a DC condiment that you get on top of chicken and fries. And it's like a whole cultural experience in the DMV. And I just like reverse engineered what a great party looked like and then put all those things together, whether it's the people, the graphic designer, the right venues, talking to the right people. Like I just try to think about all the things that I've learned from being a part of events and seeing a whole bunch of things and knowing what a bad event looks like and what are the things that I could have learned from seeing or being a part of an event that didn't go well and then the good one. And yeah, just like putting things together, talking to people, being relentless, being a little bit annoying, being like just having a vision, right? Just believing in it, like not letting anybody steer me away. Like I even remember when I was working on this party, I think my brother told me like it's not gonna work unless you like do this thing that I was not interested in. And like when someone tells me that I can't do something, that makes me just want to just turn it up even more. Like, all right, so you're doubting me? All right, bet. Now I'm really gonna do it, and you're gonna see. And so yeah, I think that's sometimes is my motivation, um, which is not always the best thing, but that's just the way I am. But yeah, I think overall, like I just use my curiosity and let it kind of drive me to new things, even if it's not necessarily like my space. I'm gonna just learn about it, right? I'm gonna ask questions. I'm gonna see who's in the space. I'm gonna go follow them on Instagram. I'm gonna go like reach out, find some kind of mentorship. I don't know. I just try shit. Sorry, I shouldn't curse, but I just try things and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Um, but the experience is kind of what I value the most. Um, yeah, and you asked about TBA. So yeah, TBA is a company that I started a couple years ago. It actually started as a passion project of mine from just like being in the event scene. And at the time, we were all using Eventbrite, me and all my peers for events. And it didn't really like match the vibe that we were coming with our curated shows. So I'm like, I'm just going to build a ticketing platform for my event. And then I ended up doing it. I charged like a $2 fee or something like that. And we ended up making like, I think like $1,000 or $2,000 on like ticket fees, like service fees. And I'm like, oh wow, like this is how like Eventbrite actually makes money. Maybe this could be an actual thing. So then I started to just like build it out. Got my friends to use it. Next thing you know, we're like, all right, well, now we have this platform. What are we standing for? Like, what is the mission? What is it about? And then I'm just like, I don't know, but let's talk to the people that are using our platform and ask them what their needs are. How do you guys like our platform? What would y'all like to see? Like really tapping into the community that we sort of built. And then artists started coming in. And there's an artist named LaRussell who is from the Bay Area who came to us like, hey, you know, we do this thing called offer-based tickets, and we want to see if you guys could streamline it for us. And what offer-based basically is like, instead of a fixed price for a ticket, like your audience can make an offer of how much they want to spend, how much they think this experience is worth to them. And like, that's how he was doing it, through like Google Forms and like fulfilling payments on Cash App and then emailing the address. Like, it was like very much a tedious process. And he liked what we were doing and asked if he can like try to build this out. And then we ended up partnering, and now he's like a co-founder with me. So yeah, it definitely started off as just a passion, fun project, and it became real. Now we've like processed like $3 million worth of ticket transactions, and like it's been a journey. You know, I've learned a lot of stuff, grown a lot, and yeah, that's kind of TBA in a nutshell. Sorry, I feel like I talked for a long time, but yeah.
No, that's great and super great information and context too. Thank you so much for sharing. And I definitely want to ask you some more questions because I love the a number of things that you said. But really quickly, let's go to another panelist because we do want to give every panelist an opportunity to answer some questions about pathways. And so over to you, Dr. Drew. So what led you into translational science, and what does your day-to-day look like as someone who's bridging research and real-world medical outcomes?
Well, at least for me, I said I did go into this whole path thinking I was going to become an MD. I moved to the US when I was a teenager, so right at my junior year. And so I did get to spend 2 years in high school and then went straight ahead to Stony Brook University for undergrad. While I was there, I still stayed on the same path. I'm going to become an MD, but I ended up being in a pharmacology major where we had to choose a thesis mentor to do research with them for the full 4 years if we wanted to graduate with honors in pharmacology. And so after I declared my major, found a mentor, I started working on a research project. I was decided that, okay, I'm going to do stem cell research. And that was what I focused on. So I was doing stem cell research with this amazing mentor, to be honest. And during my time in the lab, I got to explore things that I never thought was feasible. And at that time, it was kind of, there were issues with working with embryonic stem cells a lot more, like all the ethical questions and concerns. But I thought it was pretty cool that we had access to these rare materials and got to do different things, like published the paper, first authorship paper, my first one at the time. And my mentor was impressed, and she thought I did great, and she thought I was a natural in terms of science and thinking and asking the right questions and kind of exploring. And I was curious. I mean, I still am, but I guess my mindset has changed a bit more. But I'm very curious about understanding the systems, the biology, and I always find it fascinating how you can go one path and find something completely different. And so that um, fuels my passion, I guess, to really learn more about the sciences, specifically in terms of stem cell research. And then I went ahead and pivoted a bit because at the time I was like, I'm not leaving MD. I'm going to stay at MD. And she did the research for me because I mean, I was still new to the US, so I was still trying to figure things out. I think this is my third year by this time when I started thinking a little bit differently. And she said, why don't you consider doing an MD PhD program? You get to do two things at once and really push into this because I think you would be great as a scientist. And then I'm like, why not? Sure, let me look into it. Of course, things have gone differently now, but the time that I've spent really thinking about the possibilities in science and research and in medicine, and being able to focus more on just pursuing the PhD degree, which was not easy, of course, but it allowed me to really hone in on my passion, which is understanding systems, learning the process, asking questions, and going about the steps to figure out what do I need, what tools do I need, what tools do I have, what is available out there, what's already been published, what's not, and doing the work behind it, or even, and I guess now in a more advanced stage, designing the strategy for the team to carry out the questions and execute to get an answer afterwards. And so, for me, now that I'm more advanced in my career, I still haven't reached my, I guess, the peak of anything, because I feel like I'm just getting started. And so on the day, I know you said also on a day-to-day basis, it really differs. And some days we're working on figuring out, okay, what tools do the researchers need? How can we help them meet their goals? Because my team, now as a laboratory manager in this biospecimen research lab, we're working on tissue sampling, biological fluid sampling. We work with a medical center at NYU, and trying to, get whatever we can that is requested from clinical trials and cohort studies and NIH studies, and also just the scientists at the campus, and trying to identify patients that would be good candidates to obtain specimen from. And there's a whole process. It's an entire team, right? And so each day is different. Some days we're literally just trying to identify what patient samples we need. Other days we're coordinating to retrieve samples from the OR and process them as required and follow all the necessary steps. And then some days are just logistical challenges that come up, and trying to design new protocols and optimize the system. I really find this, like, every day is different. That keeps me excited. That keeps me interested in the process. And it's just like science in motion. We have ideas of what it might look like, but it just changes. You go in with a question and you get out something completely different. And for me, my personality, that keeps me excited. I just didn't want to have a boring career. And I think that's what ended up, how I ended up really just pursuing the PhD, to be honest. Yeah.
That's awesome. And thank you for sharing as much as you did. And I do have a question, because you really talked through a lot of what you do now as a lab manager. And thank you for sharing that much detail. So I'm really interested to know how those changes reflect as you go from being a research scientist to being a senior research scientist, and then a laboratory manager. So I'm sort of trying to connect, what does that work?
Okay.
What does it look like to be just a research scientist, and then to be a senior at a level, and then to where you are now, which you've already discussed?
In a more layman terms, when you're a research scientist, you're a slave. I'm joking. I'm joking. You're really working the other dog. It's like working the hard hours, the long hours. You're the one on the bench, the days, the nights, and you're the one executing the PI's questions and requests. That's how you start. Because I did my PhD, then I went ahead and did a postdoc. That's during the postdoctoral years, and it's hard, and the pay is not great. So I just knew that was not going to be for me. And then after I graduated from my postdoc position, published another paper, and then I was like, yeah, I need to pivot. I want to do something different. I went into a startup biotech company, and I was there for a few months. But then I started to realize they were going to have issues. There were questions that were not being, I had questions that was not being answered. And I've had amazing mentors. They've trained me to ask the right questions. And I wouldn't even say I'm the perfect scientist, but I have that confidence in myself. And so I would ask questions, and it seemed like they weren't interested in pursuing it. It was clear to me it wasn't about the science, but the financial implication of what they wanted to do with it. And I just asked myself, is this what you really want? Because if this is what you want, I don't really think you're going to be happy. And so once that thought came to my mind, I'm someone that I act quickly and I'm not impulsive. I think about what I want to do, consider it very carefully, and then I have faith. So I really will really like, okay, I'm going to try this step. And if the door opens up, then I know that I'm on the right track. And so that's what I just did. I went ahead and applied to NYU. I was like, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to stick around here to see this thing take. And I'm grateful I've done that, because each time I pivot, of course, you go to a higher level, the next level, you get better pay, you get a better situation. And that's what science is like. Now, this my path may not be for everyone. Some people just literally tug it out as a research scientist, as the underdog for as long as they need to. And then eventually they get a grant, they apply for a position, and they become an assistant professor. I just didn't see myself wanting to follow that pathway. And my mentors always laugh at me, but I'm not that person to just go with the path of least resistance. I am ready to shake the boat. So I will rock the boat and see what comes out of it. So that's me. So people say that's being a troublemaker, right? I reject that for myself. I'm not a troublemaker, but I think I didn't come to this world to just settle for less than I'm capable of. And so I would rather push myself. I'm not doing it for the money. But I know that I should earn what my experience and my degree calls me to. And so that's how I kind of walk and move and operate. And so each time, I started learning how to negotiate and ask the right questions and all these things. And I've had tough female mentors, but they've taught me a lot. So it's like you learn from other people, you watch, you pay attention, you listen, and you will go far. And I don't even think I would hit the cusp of what I want for myself. So sometimes when I'm asked to do things like this, I feel like I'm just getting started. So I don't know if I have enough experience, but I do hope that this is helpful for someone, and I'm happy to stay connected with anyone that is interested in asking any questions or whatever. I know that one thing I always wanted to have when I was coming up was a mentor that looked like me, and that was hard to find. But I had a great mentor. She was German. I had a great mentor. He was German. I had another good mentor. She was Chinese. They were great people, but it's different because, they don't have the same background as I do. They don't have the same understanding of my culture and the things that I value. And so, you just learn to cooperate and all that. But having someone who represents you and sees you and understands you, I feel like it's such an important component of your development and your career path and growing and understanding, what fits you and what doesn't and all that. But yeah, hope that answered the question.
Does. Thank you so much. And I love how you touched on the fact that even while you were still being mentored, you were still very particular about you making sure your own voice was the leading direction when it came to how you wanted to move within your career. And that's a beautiful thing. So thank you for that. And then really quickly, I'm going to go to Dr. Joy. So the question for you is, what drew you specifically to family medicine? And how has that specialty allowed you to serve the community in meaningful ways, well, the communities which you've served so far?
It's a hard question. Yeah, so I didn't go into med school thinking I would do this, but I would say, the nice thing about medicine, at least in the US, in terms of training, is that you do a bunch of stuff. And so you get to experience kind of all the different types of things. I will say it's hard actually as a student to know what your life will be like when you're doing the actual job and people tell you all sorts of different things that in reality might not be true. So I would say like it might be kind of a gamble to like about what your job will be versus like what you expect it to be. What was the second part of your question?
Okay, awesome. Thank you for answering.
Oh wait, I asked what was the second part of your question?
Oh, sorry. So the second part of it was basically how that specialty has allowed you serve the community or serve in meaningful ways in general. Because I mean, family medicine, medicine in general is a very important it's a very important career path. And so I'm just wondering from your experience, like how do you feel like that has helped you and allowed you serve in ways that are meaningful to you specifically?
So, I mean, I think clearly, right? Especially in America, which might be different other places, there's not that many Black doctors. So I think in general, I mean, family medicine, you're like the face of the healthcare system for most people. So it's either us or the ED, like, so, and that means, sorry, emergency room physicians. So for better or worse, like, because a lot of people are like, oh, you should practice in this place or that place, but as a Black physician, regardless of where you are, like people who want to be heard or just have specific needs will find you. So I would say in that sense, I haven't had to do much in that way. The downside of that is that you carry a lot of people's burdens, and a lot is asked for you in ways that maybe your colleagues don't get as much. Because a lot of times you spend more time with patients. You have to combat a lot of like disinformation. You're correcting a lot of misconceptions. You're explaining things that other people should have explained. So I would say, I mean, there's a lot of good aspects, positive aspects of it, and it's like a privilege to do this. But at the same time, it comes with um, it's like also a burden in some ways. So, but I would say family medicine makes it easy, and I would say medicine, especially in our community, I will say like a lot of people are like, why don't you specialize? I'm like, this is a specialty, but people want like you should do this surgery or cardiology or whatever higher earning specialties. But I mean, I think if you're in medicine, you're fine regardless. And it's basically just finding like what's your niche, like what do you enjoy on a day-to-day basis, essentially. So yeah, that's my response.
And you've talked a little bit about your own day to day. And so I'm wondering, like, when it comes to the hours, what do your own hours look like? Do you feel like,
The hours are long. So I think a lot of people think like, oh, residency is the hard part. And I would say, so when you're in training, so like med school, residency, everybody's doing it. So which is helpful, right? Because it's like you're studying on Friday night because like the med school I went to, we had exams every week our first year and then every other week our second year. I don't know if they still do that. But so basically like some people would try and get their test done like on Friday night. But most people would be studying like Friday night, Saturday to take the test on Sunday. But it's, like everyone's doing it. When you're done, like, so I'm like an outpatient clinician. So my official hours are 8:30 to 5:30. But my real hours are like often 8:30 to like 9, sometimes longer. And so at least most primary care physicians don't work full time just because it's not, I mean, it's possible. Like where I work, I think like maybe less than 10% of people work full time clinical just because it's a lot. But the advantage though, compared to like say other specialties is that you can be part-time. So of course, like, you get paid less, even though you're working, but because of the official hours, but just for like longevity's sake and for the sake of being able to do it. Yeah, so the hours are long, but there's ways to kind of go around it.
and so that really makes me, it really makes me wonder then. So if you then do that sort of thing part time, then what would be something else? Like, for instance, what have you filled that extra time with?
So doing nothing. I mean, right now I'm still full time. I mean, I was full time up until 3 months ago. And I think so the healthcare system has changed since COVID too. I think a lot of people are probably burnt out from COVID. But so I'm officially like 90%, but I still spend, so instead of going home now on the days when I'm like a little bit off, instead of going home at like 8:30 to 9:30, I go home at 6 instead of when I should officially go home at like 3 or 3:30, right? So so it's usually like I just have normal people hours when I'm part-time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I have a question. So when you got started on the hospital shift hours, like how did you deal with your what's it called again? Preceptor. Yeah.
Can you clarify what your question is exactly?
Oh yeah, I was just asking a question on like when you started the thing.
Like, so I'll just explain what like training is like in the US, but it's similar-ish in other places. So in most places in the US, your first like 2 years are just like going to class with some clinical experiences, and then your third and fourth years you're in the hospital and in clinics. And so every rotation, so you go through different parts of medicine, and you work with different people. Sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's a team of people. So medicine is actually in the hospital setting is very team based. So that's kind of, so I think in our culture we think of medicine as like, oh, just being a physician, right? But like there's so many people that make things happen. So there's your physicians, there's your nurses, there's the physical therapist, occupational therapist, there's your pharmacist, there's our medical assistants, there's your like perfusionist. I mean, there's your phlebotomist, like so many options. And in terms of your preceptors, I guess you would call them, we call them like attendants. In Nigeria, people say consultants. So your superiors essentially. Um, I mean, I'm not sure what your question is, but basically you just have to adapt because it's different people. Like every month, it's like a whole different set of people. But I mean, in medicine, like every day you're meeting different people. And as a learner, like they have authority over you. So it's just kind of being open. And then you
Just wanted to clarify like how did you first like initially deal with your preceptors?
deal with them in what way?
Like I just want to know like how the I just want to know like do they like give you guidance on like certain procedures? Because by the time I get to farm school, like I think I'll start having to work those hours.
So part of training is, I mean, so there's like book learning, right? So reading things, and then for us, like from your third year, you're kind of learning to take care of patients. So they're supervising you. So say like, someone comes in, you go see the patient and then you present it to your superior. So usually like whoever is in charge of you, and then like they guide you. So if there's procedures that need to happen, like you do it with them. So like now when I have residents with me, if we need to do something, then I mean, depending on like have they done it before, so they guide you.
All right.
All right, I see.
I hope that answers your questions. For the moment, if you have any other questions, please put it in the chat. So let's try to get through the Q&A portion for pathways, pitfalls, and power moves before we open up for Q&A.
All right, wait, is this the Q&A portion?
No, not yet. But I'll
Okay,
I'll announce it. No worries. I'll let you know. But thank you for your question. That was great.
all right.
Okay. So, and thank you, Joy, as well for answering. Appreciate you. All right. So I want to come back to Ebrima, or sorry, remind me how you say it. I think I said it wrong.
Ebrima.
Ebrima.
right?
Ebrima. Okay. So I was curious, so we want to know in terms of like pitfalls, because we're going on to like pitfalls now. We've talked about pathways. Now we're going to discuss pitfalls. And so my question for you is, what's one mistake that you made early in your journey that became like a critical lesson for you in your growth?
Yeah, it's probably two things. One would be just like building the right team. Sometimes the people you start with aren't the people that you're gonna really take off with. And um that's something I had to kind of struggle with, and something I still kind of work on today, just kind of like knowing who to build things with. Cause I think, originally I would like choose like my friends who like I like a lot and I see potential in, I want to put them on. And it's funny, even like when I was throwing parties, like the team that I started with was like mostly women, and we were getting stuff done. Like we were like really, really getting stuff done. And we had a format, it worked. And then after a while, like I started like bringing in like my guys, my friends who like I want to kind of put in position, and I kind of ruined what we built in a way, because it's the momentum, like who's picking up what, like who's getting things done. And it kind of just got a little difficult. And then I had to kind of like, I'll do it myself. Like I have a lot of different skills. I know how to do a lot of stuff. So like I am pretty resourceful. I'm someone that believes in like resourcefulness over resources. But that also means I could be burnt out because I'm doing like 5 things at once, and things can't always get done at the highest level when you're trying to like handle the admin, handle the creative, handle the marketing, handle the booking. Like it becomes too much for you, and then you're burnt out, and then things kind of can crash and burn. So yeah, those are definitely some pitfalls that I am still kind of working through in a way. Um, so yeah, I can't say that I've like fully like solved this. I think something I'm actively like working on, even with my therapist a little bit. A lot of it is like, it's not even about the work sometimes. It's just like you become the person everyone depends on and leans on, and then you're like, well, who can I lean on? So yeah, it's a process. I'm growing. I'm getting better every day. But, being aware is definitely the best step for me, so I can be conscious of my decisions, of like what I'm doing and how this may impact things, and keeping my like emotions out of stuff, and let me not see the best in people all the time. Like really just go off of what you're getting. And yeah, sometimes you don't have to work with your friends all the time. They can just be your friends. And yeah, that's a pitfall learning lesson for me that I can talk about.
Yeah, I love that, especially when you said resourcefulness over resources. And that's such like an entrepreneurial thing. Something that you learn because at the start you feel like you need all these resources, and you realize that you can actually, just by being resourceful, you can find things, whether it's like the free or ways around having the resources that you thought that you needed. Uh, so yeah, that stuck out to me. But I wanted to ask you a follow-up question because of what you said regarding, not always hiring or working with your friends, which is true because sometimes that gets murky. But to your point about initially starting off working with women, and I wanted to know what motivated you to start things off that way, and how did you go about putting together this team of people?
That's a great question. I don't know that it was like super intentional. Why did I do that? I think I was talking about this idea to whoever would listen, really. And whoever just like was like, hey, like, let me know what you need help with. How can I help? Because they believed in it. They saw that I basically made a whole deck. Like I had a whole thing, and it's like, oh, like this looks really cool. How could I be involved? And I feel like the women that I talked to, they're also like professionally have like corporate jobs and stuff. So they kind of are more process oriented. They know what stand up meetings are and having deliverables and getting like you can hold them accountable because that was their experience. And yeah, I think they just was like, hey, like, let me know what you need. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I need this. And then they go and make a connection or like, hey, I'm looking for a venue or whatever, a DJ or just ideas. And whoever kind of got back to me, I was like, all right, well, I guess you're on a team. So I think it just kind of happened like that. I think more of my guy friends more were like, that sounds cool, but they weren't so like, let me know what I can do. Like I'm in it with you. It was more so like, oh, that's cool. Like, you know, I didn't necessarily ask anyone to join and do this thing with me. It just whoever gravitated towards me. But then once you build it and people see it, it's like, oh, this is cool. And then your friends want to come around and be like, yo. And then you're like, yeah, actually, I could use you for this because you're really tapped in. You know a lot of people. Like, can you do this? Or like, hey, like you are able to get this in a new mark, whatever. And then you kind of start working with them. And then the team that you've already had built, it kind of like you're introducing new people that they haven't worked with. And it's like, these are your friends. And like sometimes things aren't always serious, right? And I think sometimes just like completing a task can be hard for people. Like this is a simple task. Like, when you're building a team, you just have to be, you got to make sure you're doing it right. And I think, working with people that are excited to work with you and can actually bring something to the table and have something to lose is always the best bet. And yeah, I think sometimes you can work with your friends, but like, I yeah, it just depends. It just depends what kind of friends you are. Like, what have they what have they built? What have they done? What are they doing? What's the biggest thing that they've done, right? Like, is it an equal kind of share of like responsibilities and like do they have what it takes? But,
Yeah,
just depends.
great answer. And I think that there's something to be said in what you're talking about. There's something to be said about the culture that people come into. Because I know that a lot of times, especially like when we're in the day-to-day of operating and trying to start or launch something or operating a business, sometimes we forget that there's an existing culture. And if you're not conscious of how you maintain that culture, adding people and all these different things to start to shift the dynamic of teams and how people work together. So that's a very good that's a really good point and information that you shared. So thank you. Okay, so really quick, I'm gonna go over to Dr. Uju, and I actually have a question for you regarding your work in the lab. And the lab can be kind of intense and an isolating environment. And so the question for you is whether if you've ever had to push through issues like exclusion or imposter syndrome and how you overcame it. And I know that you've also even mentioned this in like some of your posts. And so I know that there has to be like some experience there where, you felt maybe you didn't belong. And so where did that actually take place? And how did you manage to move past it?
Mm. I mean, so yes, I agree. The lab is very intense, or can be very intense, especially when you're still starting off, in a career path, and can feel very isolating. I generally define myself as an extrovert. Um, I enjoy my solitude, and the lab fit me very well. um, and so Um, I love when I can get in the zone and focus. I'm very task oriented. But even with that, during the first 2, 3 years of my path in the lab for my PhD, I was like very close to quitting and walking away. And at that time, there was a opportunity that I could just transition and do an MD instead. And I really, really considered it very, very strongly. The lab was not making sense at that time. I had to figure a lot of things out on my own. I felt alone, isolated, um, and I would just go home and cry. And then I it just one day I just woke up and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna find ways. And then I just started asking people questions, and I would just bug the senior people in the lab because they all have their own projects. No one cares. Like no one cares. Like figure it out kind of attitude. And so my mentor was always traveling because he had high ambition and he just wanted to. Now he's the chairman. He's amazing, but he's the chairman of the department. But he was so focused on his own path. So so I was definitely feeling alone. There are not that many people that look like me. I walk down the hall, I see a lot of Jewish people, and I'm just like, okay, God, like, what am I even doing here? Like, I don't belong here. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm just gonna go do something else. And one day I just, like I said, I woke up to myself and I started to like just shift my focus in a way. I was like, I do deserve to be here. I have worked really hard to get to this place. I grew up as the eldest of 3 other people. And like from the moment I could walk, I guess I just became responsible for everyone's crap. I'm not complaining about it now, though I have complained about it in the past. But I think it really developed me as a very resilient person, and very hardworking, and all that is great. But I wasn't confident in myself at the time, and so got into that place where I literally felt like I was failing. I guess sometimes they say you have to kind of crash down, and then either you go up from there or you just kind of walk away and give up. And so I got to that place where I had to search deep within myself and started to define what success was going to look like for me myself. And make those. I basically started to lay out a pathway. I think I took a sheet of paper and I started to map out my options. Like, what am I going to do with this? What's going to happen here? And that's how I am. I love signaling pathways, and I just kind of started making my own signaling map with my own life and figuring out where I was going to go and what options existed. And some of it, my mentors were like not enthusiastic about, but some of it I was like, I don't care. I'm going to try whatever makes sense for me, and I'm going to test it out. And if it doesn't work, I'll pivot. And so I just kind of created a pathway. Imposter syndrome is something that I know a lot of people have dealt with. I've had the opportunity now a couple of times to talk about it. It's that feeling like, almost like you don't belong and like, I always define, like, for me, overcoming it is really an inward situation. Like, no one else can really help you figure this out. Maybe as a mentor, I can guide you, encourage you. But even if your mentor is telling you amazing and you don't believe you're amazing, you're not going to feel amazing. And so this is something that everyone who ever encounters this has to kind of, it's like you dig deep enough and define for yourself where you want to go. And then you just kind of take it one step at a time. And I always like to credit my faith for how I've figured out myself over time. I've matured, I've grown up, I now have kids. And I think they also helped me figure that out because I see them, they're still little and they're growing up. And I ask myself how I want to show up for them. Like, if I find them in those kind of situations, what will I tell them? And that's the same attitude I have towards my mentors, or my mentees. Like, what can I say to help you ask yourself the right questions? What is it that you need to define? What core values do you want to lay out and map out? And then let that kind of guide your footsteps so that even when those questions, kind of those little negative voices come up and, make you kind of question yourself or question your abilities, that you have the answers for it and you shut it down. And it takes time, but over time, that inner critic voice just kind of gets less loud and your strength comes forth and your confidence comes forth and that light shines brighter. I always like to talk about the Bible verses because in the end, like I said, my faith guides everything I do. I know not everyone is of that mindset, and that's totally okay. Whatever it is that leads you and kind of helps you stay grounded, then, do what makes sense to you. But for me, it's like, how do you light up the Bible verse talks about how you light up a lamp and put it under the table. It makes no sense. So if you have a light in you, it's only right for you to let your light shine. And I never compare myself to others, because each and every one of us has our own unique light. And wherever it is that you find yourself, that you've been called to illuminate, don't be afraid to do that. And some people might not like it. They will turn away from you. That's okay. Just keep shining anyway. Keep illuminating the world that you're standing in, and make it brighter for someone else. Even if it's just one person, just make the space brighter for them. And I think, having that answer for myself and being like, okay, I'm going to shine for whoever it is that I can help today. Like, what can I do today to make today better for someone else? What can I do today to add value in this day? Not just for myself, but wherever I go. So then just do it. Something little, smiling at someone on the street, saying hi to someone that, you just passed by on the hallway, in the hallway, at work, whatever. Of course, at work. They will say, I tell my team, I'm like, and I ask for excellence. I'm not going to lie about that, but I always tell them it's about balance. We're going to work hard, but on Fridays, I'm in a good mood. We're going to go home early. So, stuff like that. But in the end, it's define your core values, be confident, silence that inner critic, be clear that your light is deserving of shining. Don't be afraid to shine. Each of us has our own things. I write better than I speak sometimes. But we all, I think every day, each of us should be teachable. Every day is an opportunity to learn something new, grow, and develop your skills. As long as you continue asking questions, reading, there's so many books. I love the library. The books smell so good. But whatever it is, now everyone's on the phone, right? Read your phone, what's in your phone, or whatever the case may be. But whatever it is that you can do to build yourself, develop yourself even further, do it. And yeah, the sky's the limit, like my mom would say.
Well, sentiment. Thank you so much for that. And from even just through what you were saying, I thought about my own personal experience, and I've learned that imposter syndrome is something that it feels like this is something that everybody goes through. And it's encouraging to hear different people talk about it because of how many people are experiencing this. Even people that you would think are at senior levels sometimes still have some type of imposter syndrome. Maybe it's when it comes to the next stage, because there's always another level. There's always another, another stage or that you can attain, or another space that you can sort of be new into. And so this is particularly relevant even when we talk about transitions, because there are people who start off in one place and transition over time to different careers. And so it's so important for us to keep in mind that sometimes as those changes happen, you might feel like you are less than, or you might feel like you're not quite where you should be. Maybe it's the environmental conversation that's happening that makes you feel that way. But it's so important for you to push through and just stay with it, be consistent. If that's truly what you want, then yeah, you have to keep moving, and you have to be the other voice that combats whatever is going on the other side that's saying, no, I'm not supposed to be here. So thank you so much for that. And so really quickly, we're going to go to Dr. Joy, because we're supposed to be sort of in the Q&A session, part of the session, fairly soon. So we're running a little bit behind. So really quickly, Dr. Joy, could you just answer this question about your own challenges? And did you face any challenges navigating medical school or residency as a Black woman in medicine? And because you already mentioned being pretty much the only, or Black doctors or Black people in the medicine tend to be maybe not as many as we would hope as a community. So did you experience any challenges trying to even attain the position that you're at now?
So I would say I think that one of the challenging things is medicine is very type A, and I think as a Black med student, physician, there's not that much room for error. I think maybe sometimes more other people are given a little bit more grace. And so sometimes that can be challenging. But at the same time, I think the nice thing is, usually, I mean, depending on where you go, like my med school was like about 170 people, and they're like my class maybe had 8 or 9 Black people. But you form strong communities, right? So I think that helps a lot. Because like even in med school, right? I mean, even in undergrad, like even as a science student, again, not many Black people. And now it's funny, but like in some of my classes, like other ethnicities would like partner up, and it would be like me over here. And like none of my friends, other friends who were like different races were like in those labs or whatever, it would be like me and like this random person. And so I think so that can be challenging, especially if you go to like predominantly white institutions, which like all my post high school education was. So I mean, it can be challenging in many ways, but you kind of adjust because you have to, right? Like sometimes people would like share practice questions, and I wouldn't know about that, but I mean, clearly I was fine. Um, so yes, I mean, it's just part of the game. Is like it's challenging, but at the same time, if like this is what you want to do, you just learn, and then you find people who like support what you're doing, and then you just take it day by day because that's all you can do. So
Absolutely. That really is all you can do. But thank you for sharing. Okay, so quickly, I'm going to go to Ebrima, and we're going to talk through power moves. And so one thing I'd love to know from you is, how do you stay grounded as a founder and creative, and what mindset keeps you innovating? Because you've already talked about just being a naturally motivated person, but are there specific things that ground you in the work that you do and just keep you inspired to continue pushing? What is the most favorable atmosphere for you to be able to do that?
Uh, that's a great question. What keeps me grounded? What keeps me grounded? I would say, um, just trying to be as present as I can. Um, when there's like cool things happening in the city, or like something's going like trending or something's popping going on, I try to like show up to see like what's the hype about, like what's bubbling in the community, like what are people talking about. Like when I get invited to stuff, I try my best to just show up, even if I don't feel like it, right? Because you never know who you're gonna meet when you're out. You never know what kind of introductions or conversations you'll get into. um, you never know. Like you might just end up getting a gig or opportunity because someone's looking for a DJ, or someone's working on this cool project that you met, and they might be wanting to build a team. So it's like ways to just get experience, is just being present, um, being outside. Sometimes it does get draining. I'm like a extrovert slash introvert sometimes, so like a lot of times I do just want to just chill on myself. But yeah, I follow interesting people. I listen to podcasts. I read Business Insider, like what's happening in the tech industry, what AI company just got funding, and like whatever, just like what's happening. So I think just being informed helps me stay creative, helps me kind of understand what's happening in business, how I can implement and add things to like my repertoire, or how I can improve my, what I'm doing by just staying up to date. I think a lot of my ideas come from being outside and like experiencing things, and like, like this is really cool. I didn't know people like this. Okay. Then I go home and I think about it more, and I start obsessing over it. And I'm like, well, if I were to do something like this, I'll do it in this way. Maybe that could be something cool to do. And then I ended up just trying it. And then even if it sucks or just whatever, just the experience I think is great for me. So I can learn and kind of get those lessons, and also trying to like have people in your circle that can keep you sharp, like having a mentor, having someone that's like a more successful version of who you want to be, right? Or like someone who's maybe like horizontal to you. They're on the same grind as you, like just talking through things and just building those relationships kind of helps you just stay sharp too. Like, what are people talking about? What are my friends talking about? What's happening? And I think that helps me stay grounded and keeps me kind of keeps the creative juices pumping, being around creative people, being around people that you want to be like, if that makes sense. That's kind of like what I try to um instill in myself. I don't always do it, but like when I do it, it feels good. I also like work out. I like go on runs and hit the gym, which also like more of a mental thing for me. Just pushing yourself to like you pass your like where past your limits and seeing how your body can kind of transform. Like it's just pretty cool and kind of helps me grow and yeah, like you said, stay grounded.
Hey, I got a question for you now. So, how would you say your interactions with friends maybe have shaped you?
Man, I'm like a recovering people pleaser, I'd say. I'm someone that likes to make sure everyone's happy. And if they're not happy, let me go make them happy. What do they need? Make them a drink. I don't know, whatever. I just try to like make sure everyone's good. And I think it's helped me in a lot of ways. And I think it's maybe hurt me in some ways as well. But yeah, I try to be around people I can learn from, people that are good vibes, people that are smart. Um, Obviously, sometimes not everyone fits those boxes. You might have certain friends for certain things, like people that I might just work out with, people who I just go out with for a party or a good time. Some people that are like, I can nerd out on certain things with them and they just get it, whether we're talking about crypto or blockchain or AI, whatever. You have those kind of friends. So you just kind of have different kind of friends for different kind of reasons. And you have to kind of pour into them sometimes, just random FaceTime, random text. I have nothing to talk about, but I'm just keeping up with people. And I need to do more of that because there's other relationships that I want to build with other people that I don't really keep up with. And it's kind of hard to build a relationship with someone that you don't really talk to often. And maybe you see them outside and stuff, but making the time to actually sit down with some people, get lunch, make dinner, whatever. Working on doing more of that so I can build even more deeper relationships with people.
Thank you. Okay, so that's awesome. You talked about a couple of things. You talked about networking, you talked about, exercise and staying active. And I think that those things are really great. To your point about networking, honestly, you never really know who you have the capacity, you have the opportunity to meet when you go to certain places, especially places that, are maybe of interest to you, but places where you wouldn't normally go. So it's great to get out there. And I speak for the introverts like me. So, uh,
You got to. A lot of conversation with someone who don't compliment or just or is you must have been and you're like, I'm a fan what you're talking. I love them like link up with you or like he can represent these kind of things.
exactly, just how I DM'd you. So there you go. There you go. So, okay, we do have a question the from the general audience, and I'm gonna throw this one to Dr. Uju. So it says for those on the panel who are in leadership positions, what did the transition to leadership look like for you? And how can one prepare to become a stronger leader in their future career?
Hmm. I guess I would say as you are, one thing I've noticed, because like I said, I feel like I'm a baby leader, but one thing I've noticed is that all the things that I took, like I've done excellently as I was coming up, it's like it primes me for what I'm doing now. So like when I have challenges, I'm like, wow, I learned how to figure this out from that issue I had 5 years ago. And I learned how to talk about this now because I had to speak with this person in a very difficult situation. So don't minimize your experiences that you're having as you're coming up. I think all of it is important. Like I said earlier, I really am big on having core values. And you want to be a leader and you have to be disciplined. You want to be a leader and you have to have clarity about who you are. Like you have integrity, your yes is yes, your no is no, because all of these things matter. And it's just interesting because, for instance, when I got my next position from when I was a postdoc, it was because I had given a presentation, a talk at Columbia University. And my boss that hired me had seen me present. He didn't even want to talk to my boss at the time, and my postdoc boss. He literally was like, Uju, you want this position? I'm going to wait for you for 9 months because I couldn't leave at the time. And it was just like, he was sold on me because he had seen me at something else. And so it's like, everything you're doing now today is very important. I tell my kids about this, like seeds matter. So like, think about it as sowing a seed. You might not think it's anything important, right? Just go go do that experiment or go read that book or whatever, but it does matter. You're setting a stage, like the groundwork for where your life might end up. You might not think it's important now, but it could be. So why not take more care and put in more effort and be more excellent at it? I know Ebrima mentioned something about like how he takes care of his body and stuff like that. I used to run. I used to do a lot of sparring races. I used to be big on it. I just had my son, so don't trust me. But I when I was much younger, I really took my health as seriously as I'm trying to catch up back again. But I think all these things matter. You want to be disciplined and you want to take care of yourself. It's like it's a full package. So to get to the leadership position you want, I hope I'm answering this question as comprehensively as I should. You just want to take care of every aspect of who you are today, because it does matter. What people think of you matters. It would just be one mistake and you gave a wrong impression to the wrong person, and that would stop you from getting to another step. Or you give the right impression to the right person, and that has happened to me countless of times, and that sets the stage to the next step. So think about each day as important. Don't minimize the beginning stages of your life, and don't neglect doing your best. Always show up excellently. That's how I say it. Be excellent. Every day is excellence. Excellence doesn't mean perfection. Be your best. Some days your best is 100%. Some days your best is 20%. But at least you know you're doing your best. And you will never have to be like, well, maybe I should have done a little bit better. So for leadership, the journey it's not just linear. There's different things that happen along the way. But to finally get to where I'm at today, it's taken a lot of effort. And I've gotten a lot of support, mentorship, guidance, and all of that. But I also saw that the things that I was doing when I was starting out really paid off in the end. So take care of today and keep doing your best and setting the stage, and you find that you end up getting where you need to get to eventually.
Thank you. And I love that so much. Thank you for saying all of that. And yes, you're right. Everything is really like how you show up in the world. And, you know, you might not think these things matter very early on, but even part of how you show up is communication. So if you're not at your very best, being part of leadership and good leadership is also being able to communicate in such a way where you're not leaving people sort of wondering things, because miscommunication happens that way, where people will fill in gaps in their minds for things that you're not saying. And so it's really important how you communicate as well. Just wanted to bring that one to the forefront, because that can resolve a lot of misconceptions about you by just being able to be vulnerable and opening up, regardless of what your situation is. So thank you so much. I did want to say though, if anybody has any questions, I haven't seen any other questions come up in the chat, but
I have a question.
okay, awesome. Thank you. Please go for it.
Okay. Hi, my name is Tracy. My question is just focused on actually breaking into like the STEM career fields outside of like leadership. I personally come from a background of pharmacy operations and healthcare systems, and I'm interested in pivoting more into the STEM focused area. What resources, mentorship programs, or communities would you recommend for someone like me who kind of already has that grounding in like healthcare systems?
Okay, awesome. So Dr. Uju, Dr. Joy, do any of you want to take this question?
Are you trying to break into tech, or are you? I'm not sure what the question is.
I think she says STEM, right? Like to pivot into like STEM career path. At least I would say, LinkedIn is a vast place, and there are a lot of excellent people you could talk to. But I'll be honest, I know that when I was trying to figure out where I was going to go next, not everyone was very open to sharing guidance or giving guidance, but you never know. So there are a lot of, I guess it depends. So there are some pharmaceutical companies or programs, and things have changed a lot since when I was a student and postdoc, since COVID, a lot of things are not the way they used to be, but there are some pharmaceuticals that, or pharma companies that have, like entry level, not like internships, actually they're paid programs that you can kind of do for like a year. Sometimes they call it like a postdoc, but it's like an opportunity to kind of get an experience, like exposure. You're working for them. They do summer programs, summer internships, and you're working for them for that summer program, and you get a sense of what it's like to be in the program. And like I mentioned earlier, like you can look in LinkedIn, search for like areas in STEM that you think you might be interested in, and identify people that are kind of leaders, or maybe not like the main leaders. Sometimes those are harder people to get in touch with, but like people that are in significant levels or positions, and maybe a opportunity for you to like connect with them, and can we have coffee or just have a virtual conversation? I'd like to learn a little bit more. I'm interested in this, and I would like to like get some more understanding of the process and how I can get there. And like talk to as many people as you possibly can, because you can get a lot of information. Of course, I have my experience, but it's just limited to my viewpoint. So it would be good to like connect to as many people as we possibly can to learn more about what opportunities exist for you. And like I said, you can look on specific pharma websites, and some of them really do have these programs that allow you to kind of start off. Or if you just want unpaid internship, or if you wanted to work more in the lab setting and not more in the pharma end, you could identify a campus that you could see yourself in, reach out to, find 3 mentors that I did earlier in my career, 3 people that they are doing some sort of research labs. Love hiring people that are cheap. So I said cheap labor, but it's an opportunity for you. So like you get that experience under your belt, and you get to kind of get a sense of, is this something you even find yourself like? Sometimes it's an idea that you think you might like, but then you get in there and you're like, okay, I like the idea, but not necessarily this pathway. Now let me figure something else out, something like that. But like you can reach out to some people that are doing some sort of research or work. And a lot of people love talking about what they do, who they are, and all of that. And many people want to connect with you. Maybe not everyone, but you dig deep enough, knock enough times, and eventually the right people, respond. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Tracy, does that answer your question? Are you good?
Yes, it does. Kind of, sort of. But I would love to connect
Sure.
with you further, just to kind of dive a bit deeper into like what I was actually asking.
Okay, sounds good.
Please.
And awesome. If anyone else has any questions, Zim, I see you're off mic. So if you did have questions, please feel free.
Oh yeah. I just have one final question, and it's a really simple one at that. How do you think Igbo culture plays into like each of you guys' decisions in life and how you handle your careers? Um,
I can.
is that a hard question? And I just
I like that question. I'm not Igbo. I'm Gambian, but I could speak to just being West African and just like
all right.
um some of the expectations that you kind of get from your family of like, you got to produce, you got to be a high earner, you got to be an engineer, a doctor, or whatever else. And yeah, I don't, well, I guess for me, I'm an engineer, so I guess it's kind of hard to speak on that. But I think just me being an entrepreneur, like my dad never really got it because he's like, he even said one time, like, because I was working at a company and then I left because my business that I started had some funding and he didn't really support it. He almost thought that I was like wasting my skills because I'm not working a job. And I kind of got like a little upset because it's like, I'm trying to build something here, right? Like I'm trying to make a shake for myself, for my future, for my family. And like, that's a different kind of grind than just going to work, getting that consistent income. Sometimes you don't have an income when you have your own business. You're like having to reinvest and as I get older, like I'm 32 right now, like I kind of understand what he meant a little bit. I think the way he said it just threw me off, but I think just like with how the climate is now, like it's hard out here, right? So like if you do have a job, you should definitely hold on to your job. You shouldn't just let go of it and go start a business. Like you should definitely do your business, do whatever side projects, side missions, work on them on the side, try to build it up to be something, but don't leave your gig unless your side gig is making you more. If anything, just do both. And that's something that I was a little bit too arrogant to like really do. I was just like jumping the gun a little bit too early. And even now, like I'm like trying to get a gig right now because I'm trying to stack up. And sometimes it's not really the season for that when you're building a company, when you have to keep reinvesting in things. So yeah, maybe my dad was right, but I just didn't like how he said it. He could have said it better. Maybe I would have like took heed. But yeah,
Okay, see.
So true about, when your parents are saying things, initially it's like, oh, I don't like the way you're saying it. And so I'm not going to receive it because you're saying it that way. But the truth is, a lot of times you actually look back and you're like, maybe they're kind of right.
even though the climate is different in like their world when they were our age is so like it's so different now. So you kind of have to be a entrepreneur mindset kind of person. You can't just rely on, oh yeah, the job's going to take care of me because I don't know if y'all been seeing these layoffs. It's been happening. So it's like you have to kind of be an entrepreneur while still
Managing another career, yeah.
Absolutely. And before I throw this question over to Dr. Uju, because I felt like you had something to say, I also wanted to mention on that note, it's so important to always have something else that you're building. To Ebrima's point, um, if you get into a space where, for instance, like tech right now, you're having massive layoffs, you always want to know that there's something there, a cushion for you. And that could be maybe even while you're doing the work that you do, you already offer consulting services or anything really that sort of complements what you're doing and that you also find fulfillment in. But definitely find fulfillment in that thing, but definitely have and nurture that thing, even if it's a couple of hours through the week while you are doing the stressful, normal work routine. Set aside time to always build those.
I also add you might not need to be fulfilling. It might just need to be something that works, that you are good at something, and you have the exposure, the network, the family, whatever you have to your advantage that you can spin to something that can make you money. You can hire people. You don't have to love it. You could just kind of love the system that you built and how you're able to like take care of yourself and take care of others with, even if you don't really care about it. But it'll be nice if you love it too. Dream, but
Yeah. I mean, that's true because sometimes you do have resources that you can take advantage of and make something extremely successful and lucrative out of that because of the access that you have to it. But maybe in that path, you can find ways to enjoy it. the reason why I like to enjoy things is because if you're already doing something else and maybe the stress of maybe working in corporate America, you might want something that at the end of the weekend, you feel motivated, right? It in your heart, that's what you love. And so you already just want to do it because of that. It becomes a lot easier to execute and to, be consistent in what you're doing over time. But
I mean, that's true.
yeah. But let me give that over to Dr. Richard. Did you have something that you wanted to say, or Dr. Joy? Either of you?
I guess two things. So, the question about, I mean, it's interesting listening to tech people talk because, like, in medicine, most people, I don't have a side gig. I have no interest in a side gig. So it's, I don't know, it's just a whole different. What some people do, there are people who are like real estate or like, but it's more, it's just different. So I would say, I don't know, if you don't want to have a side gig and just work, I think it's totally fine. I mean, people do that and it's totally fine. In terms of like how does Igbo culture affect, my work or like career choices, I think my family is a little bit different. Like I think my parents clearly valued education in school. So my dad used to be a university professor. So there was that mindset already. But in terms of like career choices, it's basically like feed yourself. So I don't think like we had the pressure that I hear other people have. Um, I mean, none of us are also like in creative fields. So maybe like if we were, I mean, my dad, like, cause I'm a bookworm. So my dad was always like, you should write, but I'm not a writer. So I never did. And it was fun. So like they would have encouraged alternative pathways, if we had the skills for it. So I guess we're like fortunate in that way. But I do think in terms of Igbo culture, it's like instilling like hard work and some kind of like responsibility. But then at the same time, like I always know that like if I ever decide to just go home and do nothing, okay, I can't say that, but like they would let me do that for a while if I needed to. And I'm the first kid. I have a twin brother, but I'm like the first, and it would still be fine. So I don't know. It depends on everybody's parents. But I think like the core is there, and then I guess we're fortunate that my parents are like, go to school and like figure out what you want to do. And like they supported it like, financially, emotionally, all of those things. So
Yeah, I see. So basically, it's like, sure, your parents may be sort of harsh on their words, but like to some extent, what they're saying is correct. I mean, what you're saying, it has some value to it. I mean, like I can't really say, oh, what people say is correct. I mean, like there's some truth to it, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. There definitely is truth to it, right? Because if you think about it, a lot of times when our parents speak, they speak from their experience, and that is real world experience. Times do change and things evolve, but they're foundational things that they know, right? And at the time when they are saying this,
Yeah.
it might seem a little bit like, I'm going to go out there and prove you wrong. And then you go out there and prove yourself wrong sometimes. But it's okay because all of it is a learning experience. And being someone who challenges narratives is part of what makes people, very influential in their careers or very innovative because they go and they push boundaries and they try to figure out the way when other people told them that there wasn't, right? So it's a learning process, but I would say yes, definitely put the things people say through a filter, but then always use your own research and the things that you've learned to determine what the best move for you is moving forward. So yeah. And I haven't seen any other questions in the chat, but if we're good on the questions, or if anybody actually has any other questions, please feel free to send it to us. You can definitely email it to us. You have our email address, mentorship.uiubayarea@gmail.com. So you can send us messages in there and just say, hey, could you ask one of the panelists? Or we will actually send you at the end of the session any sort of information or resources that the panelists would like to share with you in terms of how you can reach out to them, how you can contact them, or how you can learn more about the things that they're doing. And before I really take us to the end of the session, Ebrima, I just wanted you to tell us really quick where we can find or how to locate like TBA. I'm sure it's like a quick Google search, but if we wanted to learn more about what you're building and how to support you in that regard, could you tell us how to do that?
Yeah, so our website is whatstba.com. That's actually like our beta platform, but we're actually about to drop a new V2, which is like way more overall experience, more features, just like more things you can get done. But that is like where that's our domain, that's our platform. We're on social media too at whatstba.com. I want to follow us. Yeah, we're cooking up a lot of cool stuff for the rest of the year and some more partnerships on the way. So tap in. I'm also on Instagram as well. Share that as well. Like maybe I'll add a chat or something. I'll add both of them on the chat.
Awesome. So thank you very much, and thank everyone, our gracious panelists and everyone in the audience who took the time out. And despite us running behind time, y'all are still here and rocking with us. So thank you, and we love you. So ways that you can stay connected. Please keep the energy going, keep learning, keep asking questions, keep making connections with people, and keep going out there and just like networking. You never know what you're going to find. So follow us at UIU Unite or for the Bay Area chapter, because we operate as chapters. We do have our national organization, which is UIU Unite, but then we have UIU Bay Area, which is the Bay Area chapter, and which that's basically the community that we're serving through this program and beyond. For anybody who's interested, by the way, don't let wherever you are stop you. So stay tuned for more mentorship and professional development events. And so if you opted in for this, when you purchased your seat or made your reservation, then you'll definitely be on our list to know more and learn more about upcoming events and ways that you can definitely participate. So, oh, great. Ebrima has shared the Instagram and also email in case anyone wants to reach out. So what I will do, as I mentioned, is send an email out to everyone, which will have all the information that the panelists would want you to know in order to continue to reach out to them and stay connected. So that being said, thank you all for joining, and we'll be letting you all go now and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.